Hello everybody, welcome to another great episode of Hillbilly Select Reviews. My name is John. I'm going to be going over this whiskey today. Before we get started, I have an extensive bourbon playlist. Done over 100 bourbons. It's attached to this video. The first comment I always pin and I put a link to whatever I'm reviewing, in this case bourbon. It's also in the description, but don't forget to check out my playlist for my beers, my wines, my liquors, all my liquors, not just bourbon. My liqueurs, everything for us big boys and girls, even my world famous Sunday morning coffee. Today, Angel's Envy, look at it. Look how beautiful it is. This is signed by one of the co-founders, Wes Henderson. All right, Angel's wings on the back, might be a little hard to, there it is. All right, now, Angel's Envy, the co-founder was Lincoln Henderson and his son Wes. Wes is who signed this bottle. Lincoln unfortunately has passed away, but he did, in his 40 years at Brown-Forman, one of the biggest whiskey conglomerates in the world, he was their master distiller. And he has some iconic brands that came out. Woodford Reserve, Jack Daniel's Bourbon Barrel Series, Gentleman Jack, and a bunch of others. Won a bunch of awards while he was there as the master distiller, including Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. Wes, his son, is also in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. Anyway, he retired, and one thing he never got to do was finish bourbon. He thought it would be a great idea. It was 40 years, all things he was involved in. He wanted to finish bourbon in a secondary barrel, like they do Scotch. And he never got to do it. He met a little resistance. So he retired with all his accolades and his awards and his great career. And after he was retired, his son Wes, who signed my bottle here, co-founded, asked him, let's start our own distillery. Now that was for two reasons. One, I believe in you and your vision to finish bourbon in a secondary barrel. And two, Wes had 6 children that he wanted to get involved, and leave a legacy and have a family business. One of them, Kyle, the oldest one, is working at Angel's Envy, and he's the master blender and taster at this time. And he had actually worked under his grandfather, Lincoln. The other, I think they have he has 3 other brothers that are involved in the industry as well, in various aspects, and then 2 younger ones that aren't old enough at this time to work at the distillery. So it's cool, 3-generational family. Everything there is thought out. They took that chance. This bottle even is, they went to the Speed Museum, which is a museum, the U of L campus, looked at some old medicine bottles that were used for medicinal purpose, that held whiskey for medicinal purposes, came up with this style, tweaked it just a bit, and that's how they got the bottle style. After some experimentation, they decided to do their bourbon, which they aged from 4 to 6 years. And then they age it for up to 6 months. After they're done with that, they finish it. They don't age it, they finish it in ruby port barrels, which of course they get from Portugal. So let's see what that ruby port does. That was Lincoln's dream. He was finally able to do that before passing away, and now it's run by his son and co-founder, Wes Henderson, and their children, Wes's children. So like I say, it's 3-generational, right in downtown Louisville. They make their own whiskey there. They age it in an off-site. They have 350 acres, about a half-hour away. And they do finish it on that site. It's pretty neat. They were the first ones. It's called Whiskey Row, because back in the day there were like 50 distilleries on Main Street. They're on Main Street in Louisville. But Prohibition wiped them all out. They were the first ones to come back. A lot of firsts with this. They were the first ones to actually commercially finish their whiskey in secondary barrels. They do a rye, which is delicious, that they finish in Caribbean rum. That is held Caribbean rum, all right, for 10 years. Before that, held cognac, and then they finished a rye whiskey in it. So let's crack. Let's see if we can. What's that tight? Oh yeah, there it is. Nice polished wood top. Yeah. All right. Plastic. Let's get all this off here. This is 86.6 proof. 43.3 ABV. It is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. Now, let's pour her in the glass. If you look at the color, this is actually a number 3 char. And what they do, there's 4 char levels. A lot of places will use a number 4. What they do is they toast their barrels first before charring them. Just kind of brown them, heat them, bring out the sugars. The sugars sweat out. Then they char at a light char, number 3 char, so as to caramelize those sugars, but not to, disguise it or hide it under a heavy char. So that's how you get the color. Then, like I say, they get done with that 4 to 6 years. The ruby port barrels from Portugal. Here's the color. So it's not going to be really dark because they don't want to char it too dark. They want to give it the flavor. They want to get that toast, that extra step of toast in it. But they don't want to hide it under the char. They don't want to. So they do that, and they don't want to have it so strong that you don't pick up the notes of the port barrel. Now, if you look at this, and I don't know what you're seeing, but you can see it has kind of a reddish tint. Oh, it's gold, it's amber, but it's also got like a little reddish mahogany. Mahogany is a good way to describe this. And that comes from the port barrel, that color, the port wine. So let's give it a smell. Whenever you smell high proof whiskey, you should part your lips a little bit so as the alcohol has a way to escape. It doesn't burn your nose. Man, it's got a nice smell. It's got the, I could smell that fresh wood. I could smell that maple syrup, brown sugar, caramelized, the vanilla. I get the fruit from the port, cherries, blueberries. Actually picking that out of here. Man, that's a nice, that flavor's so nice. This is a neck port. This is the first port. This is going to develop over time. As I said, so when I'm done with this, I'm going to come up with more flavors, but I can't sit here all day, so what I'm picking out is pretty nice, just right out of the neck. The sweetness from that port is really evident. The fruit. All right, let's give it a taste. Now, when I taste it, what I like to do is I like to hold the whiskey in my mouth and kind of swash it around a little bit and actually burn. What you want to do is you want to burn this is how professionals taste whiskey, high proof spirits. Kind of burn your mouth, and what you're doing is you're numbing the pain receptors in your mouth. So the second, third sip, you just get the taste buds, and it's unbelievable. If you ever do it this way, you'll never taste whiskey a different way again. So I'm going to do that first time. Alright, now I got a little burn, which is nice. It's unbelievable flavor, but I'm trying to ignore it. I'm not even thinking about the flavor right now. The second, third sips where I'm going to be looking for the flavor. While I'm doing that, while I'm waiting for my mouth to, acclimate, if we do the leg thing here, you'll notice that this whiskey, which is unchilled, all right, non-chilled, filtered, really, really holds up. And so that's a combination of proof and the oils that are in there. And you see the legs just barely starting. I mean, the viscosity. And that's all flavor. Okay, that clinging to that glass is part of what gives this flavor. It's not watery. It's not filtered out. Give it one more taste and then I'm going to talk about it. Kind of confirms the nose on the palate. So I'm getting the caramelized brown sugar / maple syrup / honey. I'm getting the wood. I can taste the wood influence, that beautiful white oak. Really getting the influence of the char and that where that caramelized, the toasted barrel. I'm getting the port, the cherry, the blueberry, just that dried fruit. You know, everybody's going to pick out different stuff, but I think you're going to get a nice kind of a fruit in there. Beautiful finish. I'm still tasting it pretty good. Getting the sweetness up front. A little bit of bitterness on the end, the wood. Yeah, it's very good. It's got a lot going on. And so they were the first ones to commercially finish their whiskeys. All their whiskeys they've had. This is their flagship. Of course, they make their rye. They've done, I think, 3 cellar series. What they call their cellar series, only 3. One in Japanese wood, one in Sauterne barrels, and one in Madeira, which was the last one they just did. I believe they do a cask strength every year. That's about it as far as I know. Of course, they're basically a new distillery. Now, if you look, something cool here too. If you look on this cork, I don't know if you can see it. If you can see the 1010, this was supposed to come out the first time. The first batch of sales come out October of 2010. It came out 6 months later in 2011. The reason was when Lincoln tasted it, wasn't ready. They had made up all the corks, they're ready to go. And he said, it's just not ready yet. And he let it sit for another 6 months. They kept that 1010 on all the corks to show, just to remind themselves that they don't rush anything, that they do things the right way. It's kind of cool. They got a lot of tradition at this place, although it's a new distillery. You know, with Lincoln going back to like 1965 or whatever, and his son being involved, son being in the Hall of Fame as well, Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, and now the grandkids, they have like 100 years of history and experience just with the family. Actually, adding on to it right now. Right, I know they're like tripling the size of their visitor center. What else are they doing? They're making some bars and stuff upstairs. They're telling me. I don't know when that's going to be done. It'll be a little while, but it's under construction. I mean, they're still open for business. It's going to be really nice when they're done with that. They also they don't age their bourbon now. I think I said they have 350 acres, about a half an hour away. They're building a rick house a year. Pretty interesting. The last thing I found was interesting about this is the name. So, Angel's Share is a term that in the whiskey industry, I've heard it. You know, they use it in Scotland. They use it everywhere. It's who knows how old it is, the term, and it means the amount of evaporation that happens, and it evaporates. And the whiskey industry likes to say it is the Angel's Share, right? The part that evaporates. They call the Angel's Share. Now that it depends on where you are, what part of the country, and how hot, and this and that. Between that and a little bit of leakage in the barrels here and there, you can lose between. It varies. I know Angels only lose between 3 and 5% a year in their whiskey to the Angel's Share, just slight leakage. Well, when Lincoln was tasting his whiskey, when he finally got that first batch out, he was able to taste it. He took the taste just like I did, and he said, you know, the Angels may have their share, but they're going to envy this, what they can't have. And that name stuck. Wes was there. Wes obviously heard that and went with it. And that is how they got the name of Angel's Envy. And that's it. I really enjoy this whiskey. A lot of people call us a starter whiskey because it's sweet and it's easier to drink. But it's good. So although I do hundreds of whiskeys and I drink a lot of them, and I have a lot that I really enjoy, I always come back to this. This is one of my go-tos. Not really that expensive if you consider that they toast the barrel before they char it, which is an extra step, which is cool, you know. And they do age it 4 to 6 years, and they then have to buy the port barrels and age it again. So that's a little expensive when you do that. And the rye, same thing. And they're having to buy the Caribbean rum barrels. And I think they age that up to a year in the Caribbean rum. Depend. I think they use those a few times. So each time they use it more and more before they get rid of it. I believe their barrels of bourbon go to, I think, I'm pretty sure it is Dewar's buys their whiskey barrels. So, this is a Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey finished in port wine barrels. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, meaning it has to be made in Kentucky, aged at least 1 year in Kentucky. We said it's aged 4 to 6. Has to be at least 2 years old. Now, if a bourbon is less than 4 years old, it has to have an age statement. This does not, because it's not less than 4 years old. It's more than 4 years. It's at least 4 years old and up to 6 years old, not counting the secondary finishing. So here it is. I love the bottle. It's so iconic. They put a little, this thing on the back here. I don't know if you can, there it is. And what that says is, what does it say? Bottle number 86F. I'm sorry, batch number. That didn't make sense. Batch number 86F, bottled by 7557. Again, I screwed that up. Bottle number 7557. So it gives you the batch number, the bottle number, and that's it. And on the side, it tells you that it is a Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, finished in a ruby port wine barrel. It says it here, and it actually says it on this little tag here. So they're very proud of it. And if you haven't tried Angel's Envy, you should really give it a try. From Hillbilly Select Reviews, everybody, thank you for being here, and I will see you all on the next one.